So we're going to be making a little penguin, a little bit like one of these. They're pretty cute. Originally I started off by looking at, well, not a photo, just a printout of a penguin, and I've also got a picture of a real penguin. Just a little bit to do with maybe the wings and the size of the head, which is quite different on a real penguin compared to the more cartoony penguin. But I guess I just want to get a bit more idea about maybe the shape of the arms. I think I prefer them coming over a bit, like this one is, rather than the flicky up wings. Yeah, but I'd always print out a photo or an image to start with to be able to follow along and check things like positions of eyes and beaks and sizes of feet, things like that. So I've got a variety of different size needles set up in my handles. You see some of them have just got single needles. This one's got 3. This one's got 8. 8, yeah. And I've actually written on the end to make it easy for myself the size, but you also get pretty used to knowing the difference. So the larger numbers are actually smaller needles. So this is a 40. This is a 36. I think you can see. And they also differ in length, so I would never mix the different needles in one of these multi-needle handles. You always need to have the same size. So I've got a whole lot of felting wool sitting there waiting for me. Just got some black in the mail, so that was good. I used grey on these because I didn't actually have any black apart from a little bit of black that I used for the eyes. I had to ration it. And I'm just going to start the core with some batting, and it's a bamboo cotton batting, so you've got to make sure that anything you use is totally natural. And for this little bit, all I'm going to do is felt it enough just to secure the ends in. Now if this wasn't totally natural fibre, it just wouldn't catch. So never be tempted to try synthetics. If you have a little bit of decorative item that you might use on the very top, and what we do is use some wool to hold that synthetic in place, but I don't like using anything synthetic on my little figures. Okay, so that end's just quite nicely held together. So I'm just actually for this bit just going really quite slow. I could use my finger guards, but I tend not to these days. It's more important to keep watching because even with the finger guards, just occasionally it'll actually go right through. So I tend to only do one thing at a time. I don't watch TV. I might listen to something while I'm felting. But no, actually watching something's a bit dangerous. So this will compress more as I keep on felting it. But I'm going to start off putting some wool around it. Once I'm really happy that these edges are all just totally connected. Yeah. So there we go. Maybe a little bit more just here. So I could move on to my 3. Doesn't really do that much at this stage. I'm better off getting some wool on there. So I'm going to start off making the whole thing, covering the whole penguin in white, and then I'll go back and do the design with the colours afterwards. and the shaping around the middle will happen as we felt. So when you get your bits of felting wool, just hold it a little way back and take a hold of some of the fibres at this end and just pull, and it comes apart. You don't want to force it, you want to get that natural length of the fibres. You can put quite a bit on at a time. I tend not to start off with too much because we want to keep the shape. It's feeling a bit weak. I'll go to this one. That feels better. So a lot of, the size needle, which needle you use, it's just what feels good. So basically, to start with, we're just sort of attaching it. So I can put quite a bit more on at a time than this. I'll just get these bits attached. Then we'll go to the side that hasn't really got any on yet. So this first layer is just quite even both sides, and then I'm going to go back and put layers, a little bit more at the top, a little bit more at the bottom, so we end up with that little dent in the middle. Quite a lot further to go, but I'm just going to cover around the ends as well. I am working outside. I like to do my work out in the open. Well, I'm not actually in the open, I'm on my deck, so I've got a bit of shelter. And I can almost close the deck in if I need to, if it's raining or something. I use my studio for all my handcrafts. It was once going to be my yoga studio, but that had to come to an end. I was going to do the other end as well. So it's quite evenly covered at the moment. So once I've got this layer just basically attached, I'm going to keep on felting this layer until I'm happy that it's reasonably strongly felted. So again, whatever feels good. I tend to almost always go back to my single needle, it just feels better to me, but it might feel better to you to use a multi-needle. And you'll see as I keep on felting, it will shrink in size. And just making sure you keep your fingers well out of the way. These needles are sharp. It can be quite painful. I'd definitely start using the finger guards. Once you've been doing it for a while, you may decide to risk your fingers. I think we get into the rhythm of doing something like felting, and it's just so lovely and relaxing that you don't need something else going. Enjoy watching it. I enjoy watching the size change. I enjoy watching the fibres change. Go back to my single needle. I'm just starting to solidify that little middle line, just so I can then put some extra felting wool on either side. So I'm doing it a little bit more evenly than this one. This one's got quite a bit smaller head than its body. So I'm starting off more half and half. So then just taking a bit more fibre. We're going to put on one side all the way around, on one half all the way around, on the other half all the way around. Needles to get it started. So even though we've got 3 times as many needles, which speeds it up, I tend to go a little bit slower with the 3 needles. Though it's nowhere near actually felted on properly yet, but it's just attached enough that I'll move on to putting some on the other end. So it's quite a subtle little dent in the middle. Doesn't need to be too much. And a lot of that shaping is actually with the black colouring. I'd say I will be doing this, I would imagine, for around 10 minutes. So already it's hardly fluffy at all. It's not like a lot of those loose little hairs sticking out. They just, the structure of the wool ties them to each other. I might move on to doing a bit on the other side to see the difference. You can see while I'm doing this, you can see the holes where the needle's going in, but it doesn't take long before it just sort of comes back out. I'm going to get a bit of my black wool and I'm going to draw the outline with the wool. So starting off with not too much wool. We want this nice heart shape and the start at an end. We don't want that centre bit to be too thick. So with my single needle, because this is trying to do something quite specific. So once we've got the line in place, we'll be able to fill it in. It just needs to be rather careful to get that initial shape in place. Nice curve up around the top here, so it goes out quite wide. So it's always easy to add a bit later, but better to add than try and take away, although take away is also possible. It's pretty hard to remove the wool you've put on with a felting needle. I would go to a normal sewing needle to actually remove anything that didn't end up looking right. So yeah, there's a little curve in here to a point. And then back out. Just loosely felting the rest of this on. Okay, we might just tuck up this. It goes to pretty well the middle of his face. Roll that up before I put it on. It's not that hard. And we want to get the other side just the same, which can be the most difficult part. But just be patient and it will all happen. Another small piece for the other side. Coming to a similar level. There, just now if you need to, pulling a little bit of wool up into place and then felting it in. Down here just to finish off around the line of the bottom. So we've got a good guide all the way around. It's looking pretty good, pretty even, a little bit maybe to sort out on the sides, but we'll do that as we add more black. Okay, so just starting off doing exactly the same, taking off a few lengths of black wool. So you see you can do quite a bit at a time. Let's start this from this centre line. It's the back of the penguin, of course, and the whole thing is covered. Unless I'm deliberately doubling it up somewhere, so I'm trying to keep it fairly straight. So look at the bottom of this one. It's a little more than halfway. and that worked quite well, so I'll do the same. So I'm going to put another layer on, but I just want to get these black bits all off the white. Otherwise you end up with a bit of a messy look. A little bit more thickness now that we've kind of, shape's looking pretty good to me. Might need a little bit of evening up here. Okay, I'll just get some layers on. See, it's got a little bald patch there where we've only put an extra layer on the other side. So now it's this side's turn. I'm just going to let this come a little bit further forward, the bottom there. Once you start doing it, you'll find how you make the shapes, how you alter things just a little. So I'm just going to fill in this little gap. Won't take much. Just want a nice smooth edge. As we add the eyes and the beak and the feet, might end up with bits that don't look quite as even, and we'll go and adjust them when that happens, if that happens. That way I hope it does, just so I can help show you. Okay, I'm going to get two little tiny, which I do first there. Might do the big first. So a very little bit of yellow. just looking at the shape, both of this one and this one. It's quite wide at the top, coming down to a bit of a point. So folding it over so we've got quite a wide end, and we're going to come down to a narrow end. So again, we're just starting with the shape, and then we'll thicken it up, we'll size it, all those things. So this one's going to have quite a larger beak than this one. Well, a bit more like this guy. I like his beak. I'm just bringing these bits back up. So it also needs to be quite thick because we want it to kind of stand out. So the edge here is not as thick as it is up here. So just having a bit of a look. How are we going for size? It's actually not too bad. Once that bit has disappeared for the attaching, that'll be pretty good. So I'm just going to get, these are just 2 acrylic discs. You can buy tools that will do this same thing, but these were just a couple of acrylic discs from Kmart. So it's a little bit uneven. We're just going to work on evening it up, but also really getting the edges quite felted. So it's just going between these 2 discs. Just holds it. If you tried to do that between your fingers, you'd end up getting stabbed quite a few times. So turning it, doing the next side. And I can also see through the disc how it's going as far as shape. Moving around for this side. Well, those edges are starting to feel really nice and solid. Take this very corner in a little bit because it's a little bit wonky. Quite nice solid beak. A lot bigger than this one, more like the size of this one. And we want it right up to that black mark. So I'm going to quite carefully felt it in to start. And obviously aiming to get it quite even on both sides. Once it's got its first bit of attachment, and lift it up and do it from the opposite side. So I want it to stand out from his face, and I want it to be well attached. I want it to be able to be pulled off. We're going for placement. I'll take this side in a little bit. Coming back to the underneath. It's starting to feel quite secure. So yeah, if I was to try to pull that off, we can do a little bit this side. Okay. Black coming out there. Take that back in. There's still a bit of kind of fluff on the black. We could go around and trim that off, but I prefer to felt as much of it in as I can. And that getting the final bits of it down will be like a final go once I've got everything else attached and I'm happy with the placing. Might end up giving that another layer, but that will be okay for now. I'm going to do his eyes. So I like to start off with two similar size bits. And just rolling each one up into a ball. It's going to look quite large when it first goes on, but a lot of it, just like the beak, it disappears into the wool of the penguin. And again, looking at the positioning, just at the ends, these are kind of just centered in the circle. On the picture here, it's above, inside the ends of the beak, but centered in that white circle. So just starting off, where's that center of the circle? I would say here. Just getting that attached in. It's going to change a lot from that, but I want to do them both at once. So I'm making a ball of this one as well. Just rolling it between your fingers until you've got that ball. I mean, starting with, where's my center point? I'm going to say there. having it initially attached. Keeping working from that centre point, pulling the edges in where necessary. It's where he really starts looking like a penguin now. Start questioning stabbing his eyes. This one needs to come up a little, big down a little. Already I quite like that placement and that size. I might pull the edges in just a little, but basically I'm quite happy with those eyes. Every now and again, just stopping to see whether there's anything to change a little bit. Maybe making this a little bit more almond shape rather than round. Just by pulling those edges in. So moving on to the little feet. So you can see where they've been attached here. And again, it's a choice. Do I want the bigger, slightly floppier, ducky feet, or the closer, littler feet? Looking back at my photo, yeah, I'm not going to go with the actual shaping. I quite like just the round. So just taking a couple of bits of yellow, and again I'll start with 2 bits to try and make sure they end up the same size. So, shape. Just tapering a bit, almost a rectangle, but a bit wider at the front, narrow at the back. So we're going to start again by folding. This kind of more definite end will end up being his toes. And tapering in a bit. I like to turn it a little and fold. Turning it over. I'll end up doing these edges between bits of silicone again. Probably need to make it a little bit thinner this way. Okay, but we'll leave that one. Try and do the other one exactly the same. Okay, so just folding it for a start. Okay, one's a little bigger than the other. We're going to put him, just put him against Pinguy, and see which one we decide is the best, and then we alter the other one to be very similar. So I might go with the slightly smaller size, but I think they look pretty good. So that one definitely needs a bit of shaping. Same with this one. Okay. Let's put them both under together. Then just work on the one that's a little bigger. Just tucking his edges in. So I can look from the front, I can look from the side. That looks pretty even. Ready to attach. With most things, just do a few stabs to get a sort of general attachment. And then check that we like what we see. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. I just like his beak. And lift them up and just do an extra bit of attaching on this side, just catching the very edge. So we can go quite slow, it doesn't have to be that wild. Wild stabbing. Just a little bit for this one, then we'll come back. Before we put his wings on, just make sure this is fairly defluffed. I don't tend to do any trimming of the fluffy ends. I like a little bit of a fluffy look, but that's an option if you feel more comfortable doing that. Okay, here's little wings. So like I said, rather than doing this sort of flippy out, kind of more like the wall penguin, curves over. That's what I've done on both of these. So we're just going to start off with a bit of a larger and thicker, almost triangular piece. Again, starting with two pretty similar size pieces of wool, folding it over to create an edge. So the top is going to be wider than the bottom and quite rounded on the bottom, quite flat on the top. And do something similar with the second one, folding it over, so you've got a bit of an edge to start with. Coming down to a bit of a point, rounded point. Layers. So it goes on almost exactly on that, the line of the sort of dip, and we can, as we put it on, we'll squash it in a little bit. It's a little bit long, but when we go around the edges that will come in a bit. So yeah, might just thicken that up and get them to the same figure. Pretty close. Another bit of wool for both of them, and we want it thicker at the top, so starting edges. So it starts off really quite soft, and as we go along, it doesn't take long for it to become quite a lot more solid. So you could even use like the back of two jar lids. So again, we'll end up by putting the two in here together to get them to the same size and shape. So again, we're just attaching the top. So I want to do that a little bit from the underneath as well to make sure it's well attached. So just lifting up. So by doing that, you see, I could even have little wings sticking up in the air, but I'm going to go back and do it on top again to bring it down. It's not actually that easy to see black to black. It's pretty secure, very secure in fact. If necessary, I could bring another piece of wool actually over here and felt it some more, but I don't think that's necessary. Make sure I get it the right way around. Alright, all he needs is his little heart on his chest. So, just starting with a tiny little bit of red, and it is really just a little bit to make the heart. And all the heart shape is just, I do one side at a time with just this little round at the top coming down to a point. So just starting again with doubled over. Creating this little round sort of balloon. This rounded top. Coming down to the point. And from that point, I'm going to come back up. And we're going to create that rounded bit on the other side. If by any chance I made a total mess of this, I would be using a needle to lift it back off. But fine. Just as long as I get the top little dip. So doing things like the eyes, doing things like the heart, you end up with a bit of a dip. So all I do is, after I've done it, get the area around it, a bit of an extra felt to even it up. And there we have it. I hope you have fun making your own little penguins. I'm probably still going to give him a little bit more of a tidy up, get some of that black off his face. But basically, he's done. If I can't move these bits of black, I'll put another bit of white over it. Another one to add to my little family. I hope you've enjoyed making your little penguin. Please, if you make one, load a photo of it up into the comments so everybody can see what you've made. And please like and share the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Every time someone does that, it just helps keep the recordings coming, keep all these things coming so we can learn from each other. Okay, thanks, bye.